It is a relief that the year 2020 is finally over. As one wag put it, 2020 needed a reset because that version had a virus.
The coronavirus has brought about an unprecedented shutdown of our economy, of our life. We've suspended the Bill of Rights that give us freedom to meet, to gather, to go to church, to go to work. Work is now defined as essential or non-essential, and it's the government that decides what's essential and what isn't.
Meanwhile, how is America doing spiritually? Responding to the COVID pandemic has certainly brought out many people's true colors, including political leaders. Using the coronavirus as a pretext, many officials have effectively shut down churches.
The most egregious action that I have witnessed in the last 10 years has been the act of governors and mayors and government officials all up and down the line who have determined what's essential in the life of a believer and what is not. Church is not essential. Lowe's is essential. And even more egregious, a liquor store is essential. It's an essential business. But the business of the church is not essential.
One report stated recently, in Oregon, you can riot and do cocaine, but you can't go to church. And yet America was created for religious freedom, and our nation's founders fought against the idea of the divine right of kings who were squelching religious freedom.
Here we are, fast forward 200 plus years later, and now we have the divine right of governors and mayors who summarily, without constitutional authority, simply because of, quote, trying to protect us, are telling us we can't gather in our churches, and if we don't stand up to this, we're going to lose all of our rights.
So we need, as a congregation, as lay people, we need to stand up and start putting more pressure on our priests, our pastors, and our spiritual leaders to open the churches back up and get people back in there and fill those pews, because it's going to get bad if we don't.
Many Christian leaders note there is largely an unwillingness of pastors to address the whole counsel of God.
I think the biggest issue with pastors is not the 501c3, it's just the lack of courage. It is fearing man more than not fearing God, fearing man more than they fear God. That is a huge challenge. But just think about an issue like human sexuality, for instance. Just a couple of decades ago, every institution of society would have orbited somewhere in God's design for what it means to be a man and a woman, what gender is, what a marriage is.
One ongoing issue that is literally a matter of life and death is abortion.
I think this is one of the great positive things happening in the church, is there's a robust return to appreciating human life. We see what's in the womb now. It's not a blob of tissue, it's a baby, right? It's not a duck, it's not a Buick, right? It's a baby. That's a beautiful thing to see young people embrace the pro-life principle, to understand that abortion is an evil and it's not necessary, that adoption is always the better option.
I'm confident that we will not only make abortion illegal in this country, and hopefully without a civil war, we're not just working to make it illegal, we want it unthinkable. And so that's our role in the culture, is to constantly tell people about why abortion is wrong and why it hurts us, why God had said He created life in the womb.
I think the future is bright. When we look at the Supreme Court with 3 new strongly pro-life justices, we look at the governors around the country ready to pass laws that will save lives. We look at the legislation that is being tested coming up to the Supreme Court. Very likely will erode or overturn Roe, I believe, in not that long of a period of time.
Another issue relates to the judiciary. Some good news is the sheer number of constitutional judges that President Donald Trump was able to successfully seat.
Nothing is more important than the revolution that's gone on in the judiciary for the pro-life cause. In fact, it's the precondition for any actual change to come about in pro-life law in this country. Since 1973, we've been stymied because of the problem of the judiciary.
What the Trump administration did on judges is historic. When we saw, as a group that focuses on religious liberty, and we were looking at this election, and we're not partisan, so whoever's president, our job is to figure out how can we advance religious freedom. in the most significant way.
We now have a number of pro-life women joining the House of Representatives, and they should have a strong voice. I'm sure that they will have a strong voice and a very influential voice in protecting the unborn.
Another ongoing issue is the media. We saw this particularly in their coverage of the election, in what they reported, and what stories they chose to not report.
It's very scary, and there needs to be severe punishments for that type of election interference. If you contrast how Twitter quickly shut down the New York Post and their story on Hunter Biden, which was fact-checked and true and totally based on very factual information, versus how they treated the story about President Trump allegedly saying that veterans were losers and scumbags who died for their country stupidly. They didn't shut those stories down, and that was all based off of hearsay.
What about entertainment media? Many Christians have raised concerns about Netflix recently because of a program that promotes child pornography, cuties, and a program that has allegedly spawned a rash of teen suicides.
Netflix is Hollywood's new darling, the 800-pound gorilla in Hollywood right now. Everybody in Hollywood wants to work for Netflix because Netflix is paying huge dollars. It's a wonderful service on many levels. Parents find Netflix to be more trustworthy than television because they can control, here are the shows that, hey Junior, you can watch these shows. And there's some wonderful family-friendly, child-friendly entertainment. Right next to those family-friendly, child-friendly programs are programs that are extremely toxic, vile, pornographic, and in the case of 13 Reasons Why, a show that is targeted at teenagers that romanticizes suicide.
This is a difficult time spiritually, and the division is deep. But just after the crucifixion, Jesus rose. And when the hour is the darkest, God does His greatest work. Hope and believe, and make yourself available to be a part of this revival that I'm praying for, and I believe is sure to come if we are faithful.